Today's guest, I'm really, really excited to welcome Alan Clarke. Now, I've already done you an introduction, but Alan, in your own words, can you tell our audience a bit about who you are and what your mission is?
I suppose my mission is to continue what I've been doing for the last 27 years. And that is, to coin a phrase, getting people recruiter fit or recruiter fitter. We know that this industry has quite a low barrier to entry, or sometimes zero barrier to entry. So there's a lot of skill sets, softer skill sets, and what I would class as good old-fashioned recruiter skill sets that are distinctly lacking. So my mission is to be able to upskill individuals, or even just skill individuals, so that they can be the best version of themselves. That's my mission in a nutshell. Get people recruiter fit.
I love that. And I also love the name RecruiterFit, because I get the same feeling. I don't know about you, but when I am going to the gym, having a personal training session, doing something I don't particularly want to do, not that I don't want to do recruitment, I love recruitment, but the tougher side of recruitment, the impactful things, the sales, the things that a lot of people really struggle with. What is the reason behind the name RecruiterFit?
So interestingly, because I became an NLP practitioner quite a number of years ago, and I had one of my clients down here for a session in my home, and he was two owners of the business. And I actually said to Steve, I said, "So Steve, what's your exit strategy?" And he looked at me and said, "You tell me yours." And it was at that moment, I had this light bulb moment and made me think, do you know what? I don't have one. And I didn't have any website. I didn't have any online sort of presence at all. And my company was called Detraco, which stood for Developing Training and Consulting. My accountant couldn't say it after 11 years. So it made me realize that I don't have a tangible product to sell other than me being in a training room. So I thought, okay, what have people been saying to me? And a couple of my clients said, "Can you come and sort out our induction program because it's not fit for purpose?" And this phrase, fit for purpose, kept on coming up. But also a lot of my clients, they do, for example, the Three Peaks Challenge, or they do charity walks, or they have netball teams or football teams. And it's all to do with fitness. And I've always been a great believer in the mind-body link. So I thought I need to do something. So I went away, came up with the name RecruiterFit, because it's recruitment training and it's about getting people mentally fitter. If you want to do the physical journey, that's fine, but don't come to me for that.
Yeah.
Basically, I just married the two. I bought a whole load of software to film my own videos, which I did, uploaded them, created a website with some help of some developers. And yeah, so effectively, I've got the video support, but I still, whereas you love recruitment, I still love going out there and doing the classroom face-to-face training. The videos are support.
Love that. I love that you like the practical side as well. Between you and me, I come across people every day who are really keen to do the training side. They really want to do it. And it always baffles me, because I always imagine, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I always imagine that one would earn more money. Not that it's all about money, but they would earn more from being able to be a recruiter yourself. Because if you are training, there's only so much, I mean, you tell me, is there only so much impact that you can have on others?
It's really interesting, because look, this isn't the first time I've heard this, and I've had several people say to me when they say, "Those that can, those that can't teach." And I thought, well, the teaching profession, we're struggling for talent out there. So it should never be seen as almost like a secondary option. And I suppose the other thing is this: I've seen a lot of top billers. I've trained a lot of top billers. And there was this one particular guy, he had really big ego. And I said to him, I said, look, Alex, can you come in and run the training session in the morning? And he went, "Oh, no. He said, I can't do that." I said, "I know you can't, but I can." And some of the top billers, you just cannot learn from. So as a trainer, you don't become a trainer to get rich quick. It's not a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah.
And I get asked, particularly if I'm doing sales and objection handling, they say, "Oh, Alan, you make it sound so easy. It's so fluid. It's so conversational. Why don't you be a recruiter?" I said, "Because I don't want to."
Yeah.
I came into this recruitment malarkey quite late. I was in my 30s. I'd had a banking career before then. So I'd done sort of 7 years of sales. It doesn't float my boat. Obviously, I still have to sell my business. But I think you play to your natural strengths. And I think the Andram side of it might have helped. I'm not afraid to stand up and perform or write scripts or do videos, that sort of stuff. But I seriously think that a lot of trainers are undervalued. And don't get me wrong,
No.
there's some terrible trainers out there. There's some terrible recruiters out there. And I'd like to think that we can sort of marry up some way through the process.
Yeah, it's such a good point, because I actually respect the organizations who get learning and development specialists opposed to their top billers to come and train the team, because people learn differently and you've got to understand that. And I think from my perspective, when I was first put onto a training type role, I got frustrated because why are people not getting it? But that's because I learned differently, and I would have had to have gone back and really understood all of that. But I'm just curious to know, sort of I love the fact that you're thespian, by the way. Do you believe that a lot of recruiters, the best recruiters, are from a sort of performing background? Do you need to be a performer to be an elite recruiter?
Short answer, no. I think you need to be able to adopt a persona. I think you need to be able to adopt a character, because some people, if I said to them I used to do musicals, they go, oh, their eyes would roll to the back of their heads. Is that where people just talk up to a song? And the thing is, you don't have to be a thespian, but I do think you need to be able to tap into a character whilst you're in that recruitment office, particularly if you're doing sales and you have to grow with sort of a thicker skin because you're going to get rejection. And that's why I think, for me, if you sort of combine sort of the acting or performing, stand-up comics, it has to be the toughest job out there, because you get that immediate feedback that people don't like you. And I've tried it on courses, because I will, to try and lighten the load, I will use humor and I'll tell sort of some war stories, and some people just don't get it. And I think because the age I am, I have to sort of constantly update my language so that it suits the people that I'm training. For example, I can't talk about records that I used to buy.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, you have to adapt, don't you? You have to adapt. And I think that's the thing. When you're on stage, you probably have to adapt as well to whatever's going to be thrown at you next.
Well, and the thing is, the link is when people say to me, oh, Alan, can you give me something like a script? And I said, well, I'm not going to give you a script, because some people, if you have a script, for example, you're doing a headhunt call or you're doing a candidate pitch, I said, don't call it a script, call it a presentation. So you'll have a presentation piece and you'll write it or you'll type it as if it's being said. And that is a bit like a script writer, because a script writer will actually take maybe a book and then they will write it for stage adaptation. And because I've read so many scores and I've looked at, God knows how many, and played so many parts on stage, you are still using the exact same words that the person wrote in the script writer, but it will never sound scripted on stage because you're adopting the character. And for me, you're sort of feeding off that audience. And I used to feed off, as soon as the orchestra was starting it, the butterflies used to go. And I think Ken Blanchard said, it's great to have butterflies. The trick is to actually get them to fly in order. Yeah. But what comes into fore when you're on that stage is all the rehearsals that you've done for the last 4 or 5 months. And that comes back to the guys that I train. You've got to do the role plays. You've got to practice. How can you expect to be brilliant on your very first phone call at 9 o'clock? What do recruiters do to warm up in the morning?
Yeah.
Watch a few cat videos, eat their porridge, talk about the score last night. Whereas an opera singer would not go on stage without doing a vocal warm up for about an hour.
That is true. Yeah. And I'm also from a theatrical background, so I totally get that. And I do find a lot of the recruiters that I've recruited over the years are from a performing background. But like you said, it's a tool you can use. You don't need to have it. I was going to ask you, because I think a lot of people listening to this are very curious. Maybe some aren't in recruitment and they're curious to know actually what it really is about. Because I have a lot of people saying, I just want to help people. I'm not a salesperson. What do you find are the biggest misconceptions that people have about recruitment?
I think that's fairly easy to answer that. And the answer I've just given you, the misconception is that it's easy. I think the industry is guilty sometimes of overselling it and saying, come on in, you'll get the watch, you'll have the place in Dubai, you'll have the swimming pool, you'll have the $7.5 grand handbag, whatever floats your boat. No, actually, it's not that easy. Now, I used to do I wrote graduate assessment centres, and I stood in the business design centre, I stood at the Excel arena, and over the course of 2 days, I've spoken to maybe 300-400 graduates over those sort of 2 days. And I used to get people approach the stand. Hadn't done their research. They would watch the people in front and listen to me answering their questions. And then as they stepped to the front, they'd ask exactly the same questions. And so I started to ask them all a few closed questions. And I said, okay, so do you want a job in sales? And they had, no. I said, well, this is recruitment. They said, yeah, that's right. I just want to help people. I said, no, but do you want a job in sales? No, not really. I'm studying sort of HR. Okay, well, I suggest you go and find someone that does HR then, because recruitment is not HR. And I think it's that misconception as well about what we do. So
Yeah.
I think it's oversold. And I used to say to people used to come to the stand and they say, well, I could go over to that IT company and they said, I'll get 60 grand in my first year. I said, well, go and work for them. I
Yeah.
said, go and work
Yeah.
for them. I said, and in 4 months' time, here's my number. Come and see me. Because with us, you will earn maybe 5 or 6 grand on top of your base. They go, well, that's not a lot. I said, no, because as a specialist, you're going to take 10 to 12 months to build your specialism. The
Mm.
big money won't start to come in until maybe 2 or 3. It's not a quick fix. It is not a get rich quick scheme. So I think the common misconception is that people can come in and sort of clear their debts and have their holidays within a short space of time. Look,
Yeah.
unless you go in and you're running a warm contracts desk that's got 20 runners out, then maybe. But
And
if
even
not,
then, you get to the bottom of the roller coaster at one point, right? Like it's,
yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, actually. I don't know. And I don't think you're going to, maybe, I hope you answer this question honestly, because I really want to know the answer. What is the easiest sector in recruitment, do you think? Having trained people all over the world, where do people find it easiest or maybe have the lowest retention?
Okay, being the NL, sort of tapping into my NLP, I always want to understand the question, and I would focus on one word and say, well, what do you mean by easy?
Ooh, okay.
Because the thing is, you could say easy is the fact that, oh God, there's loads of jobs being called in.
Yep.
Okay, right. Okay, so I'll give you an example. A client that I work with that specialises in NHS, so they're on the frameworks. And I sat with one of the directors, and he's got this big sort of curved screen. I've never seen a PC screen so big. Anyway, it's this massive screen, and it was like the credits going up at the end of a movie. I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, I said that's all the jobs being called in."
Wow.
Come
Okay.
through their website. And in the space of a 2-hour window in the morning, they had over 400 roles that were uploaded to their site. And these could be, for example, they want a scrub nurse for a 4-hour shift in Northampton.
Mm.
And then it just became a bun fight. And there was something like 30, 40 deliverers that were saying, right, I've got to get that person's CV across the post or across the line first. So when you say easy, yeah, the jobs are coming in easy, but then they've got to find the talent.
Yes.
And some people say, for example, how do I make, if I were to specialize in IT, how do I make it easier for me? Well, to learn the lingo, to actually speak to clients. It can be easy if you're bothered to actually be interested and be interesting. And I think those two things, they
Interesting.
absolutely go hand in hand. The people that make it sound easy, are ones that have probably done the numbers. They might have put in a few extra hours at the start of the process. So I'm not going to commit and say it's easy because I don't think any sector is easy. I think some recruiters make some of the easier sectors bloody difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And I think actually it's interesting that you say, I think you said health and social care and medical, where you get 40 jobs in a space of a few hours.
400.
I actually think that's more difficult. I would struggle with that. Whereas a lot of people, and I think it gets quite a bad name because people see it as transactional, but actually to be on the ball and to make sure everyone's organized and to make sure that you are pre-booking people in and all that, it's an art. It really is. I think
It
it's
is,
just
but
different.
it is, but unfortunately, and this is something that I've learned over the years, is that you become a byproduct of the environment that you work in.
Mm.
So, for example, in that particular example, that healthcare example, they are totally transactional.
Mm.
And it's almost as if they really don't give two shits about the candidates. And when I heard one of the guys, and he sat on the course and he was right next to me, 12 people in the room, and he just went, yeah, but bro, you don't understand, innit? And I said, I beg your pardon. I'd met this guy 5 minutes previously. I said, it's strange that us, because there's only 2 people on the planet that call me bro. I said, and that's my brother and my sister. I said, are you this familiar with your doctors? Your FY, first year doctors and stuff. And he said, yeah, man. And they are. And whereas I had sort of doctors up there on a pedestal, but they would be calling the nurses darling and the doctors bro and all this. But that's the landscape. And we talked about adapting. You adapt to the landscape. I've worked with companies, and I still do, that specialize in construction. I mean, you said at the start of this, you've got a free reign if you want to swear. Well, that's a given in construction.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I
Okay.
get so angry. And my husband, he's in construction. He swears all the time. And it's, yeah, totally with you there. So I guess it is that adaptability, isn't it, to
Yes.
the kind of sector that you're in. I have a lot of people at the moment who are very scared. They're scared because they see the market slowing down. They are struggling to get jobs, to find candidates for the jobs that they get. Is a tough market at the moment. That's no secret. So what I'm keen to know is, knowing that it is a tough market, what would be your kind of guidebook or kind of top tips to go out there to all of the recruiters listening to this who will be fearful of these current times and maybe a bit overwhelmed with what to do?
Yeah. Okay. Again, analysing the question. When people say, "Oh, it's a tough market," and tell me if you've ever heard somebody say to you, "Yeah, the market's dead," like this, and it just and I have these flashbacks, and the hairs on the back of my neck go up because it just reminds me of my old boss. If I ever said anything like that, "Oh, it's the market's dead, it's a tough market," he would turn around and say, "So, Alan, what you're telling me is that there is absolutely no other recruiter on the planet making money in this market." I said, "Well, no, I didn't say that." He says, "So what you're telling me, Alan, is that no company is hiring right now and they don't have any hiring plans for the next 6 months." Well, no, I didn't say that either. So what you're telling me, Alan, is that every single candidate is happy in their role right now and is not considering a move either now or in the next 6 to 12 months. Well, no, I didn't say that. So is it tough, or is it just a little bit more difficult than it has been? Because we all know that
Yeah.
post-COVID, everyone sort of went, "Well, hey, this is easy, fantastic, everyone's making money." So it's just become a little bit more difficult. Now, what's made it difficult? Is it technology? Is it ChatGPT? Is it outsourcing to somewhere else that's not in your country that you're working in? What makes it tough is sometimes the competition. And I think if it's tough in that particular marketplace and it truly is not working for you and the money's not there, change markets. One of the beautiful things about recruitment skill sets is that you can overlay those onto any market.
Yes.
I talk to people, and it comes back to my first job when I left school of farming, about a three-legged stool. And that three-legged stool has three components, obviously. One is your sector knowledge, right? Really develop your sector knowledge, because that's going to give you credibility. You'll be able to have decent conversations with all walks of life within and every single layer within that sector. The other thing that you need is process. You need process, you need technique, and you need structure. Because how many times do we hear it? The recruiter's got a fantastic database. Yeah, I got 5,000 candidates on the database, 90% of which haven't been spoken to in the last 12 months. So it's a shit database. And then the last one is you.
Yeah.
People still buy people first. So if you have market knowledge, that specialism and an interest, if you have processes and structure and technique to back that up, and you're a nice person, you're personal, and people buy into you, I think all three of those combined will actually make you a very successful recruiter. But you can also survive the tough times, because that you part, you've got to be resilient. You've got to have the grit. You've got to know when to say no and when to walk away. And I think a tough market, and again, just sort of channeling people that I've worked with, they would say, "Okay, well, look, if you were self-employed and you weren't getting a regular paycheck coming in, what market would you be working? What jobs would you be working on right now? What would you be focusing on?" And I tell you what it does, it makes you really refocus. And what
Yes.
really makes you refocus as an individual is actually going self-employed. Because I was employed for 27 years and then I went self-employed, told my wife, and she went, "What?" And then it was a month, 2 months later, I'm thinking, no one's automatically putting money into my account on the 18th of every month. And all of a sudden, I'm now responsible. So if you can do the job, if you truly believe that you can do the job and you want to do this job, you can survive the tough marketplaces. And anybody that has ever survived a recession are the ones that will succeed when the market does start to pick up. And what do they do during those times? They keep in touch. They keep
Yes.
in touch with their marketplace. They keep informed during this. They have conversations with people without any hidden agendas. I might call somebody up, the CEO, CTO, whatever it might be, and say, "Look, I know you're not actively looking. I know that you have plans not until sort of Q3 next year. But in the meanwhile, how are you feeling? What's happening in your business right now? What would happen if a key person actually left?" And it's about having those future-based questions. It's about, how many times have we been asked as recruiters, "What's your pipeline looking like?"
Mm, mm.
And
All
again,
the
it's that, "Oh,
time.
God,
And
Yeah.
it's about that mindset, isn't it? Because I know, and I totally hear what you're saying. And I guess there's that element of people burying their head in the sand because they're like, okay, it's a bad market. Like you said, it starts there where all dreams are made to die. And then suddenly your
Yes.
mindset affects your mood. And then your mood affects the way that you speak to your clients. And then the clients don't want to talk to you anymore. And I think a lot of recessions, or if I dare say it, slower markets do kill a lot of potentially good recruiters. It really shows
Yes.
resilience.
Yeah, it does. It is that stickability, and it's a phrase, I don't know when it came in, but bounce back ability. I hate using it, but people seem to understand it. But you've got to have, I mean, Simon Sinek talks about this a lot, but you've got to have strong whys. Why are you doing this? Because you can probably go out and earn other money or the equivalent amount of money, but not doing the job of a recruiter, where you get that daily rejection and you get the misconceptions, and people think that you would sell your granny just to do a placement. So it really is very much about, you've got to have strong whys. What are your reasons for coming in and doing this job? Because as you mentioned earlier on, it's a bit like going down the gym.
Yes.
There are those people that will look outside and think, oh, it's a bit dull, it's a bit grey, it's a bit rainy. Oh, I won't bother going down the gym. I'll spend another hour under the duvet. And then they wonder why they haven't got that beach bod. And they wonder why they're not doing a great time in their park run. You've got to be able to sort of tap into that whys. And when I say to newbies, usually on day one, I say to them, okay, so why did you join recruitment? And the standard answer, money. And I
Yeah.
say, okay, don't focus on the money. They said, well, why not? I said, focus on what you're going to do with that money. Focus on what that money will allow you to do. What will it enable you to be? What will it enable you to have? What sort of lifestyle would that create? And go a little bit bigger, because no one's eyes light up when they say money. But when they say holiday, cruise, car, kitchen extension, kids in private education, we can move locate, that's what creates the fire in the belly.
Oh
So
gosh,
it's
I agree. Totally. But the one thing, and I'll tell you a secret, it really does frustrate me at the moment as a recruiter, probably wrongly so, but there's a huge, huge emphasis at the moment on well-being, which is great. And,
yeah,
self-care, we want that. But there's also a huge reluctance to go back into the office from recruiters out there. The recruitment companies are trying to get the consultants back in the office, but the consultants don't want to go back in the office, which is a huge problem. So what are your thoughts on that?
okay, COVID was responsible for a lot of things. It had some positive things, it had some negative things. And I think the working from home, shirking from home, whatever you want to call it, it's not new to me. I've been doing it for 16 years, but I have the luxury of being able to work from home, but then I'll go out to an office or I'll go to a different country and I'll do the training and I'll have the trappings of that. But you've got to be self-disciplined. I spoke to a company going back about 3 weeks now, and they've gone only 2 days in the office, and they're still paying a lease in London for 5 days a week. And so they're getting rid of that very shortly. But the other thing I said, look, be honest with me. What's your profitability like? What's your activity levels been like since people have been working from home? And he sort of went, it's gone down.
Yes,
It's
there's no
gone down.
one.
Not only that, the energy's gone down. And I remember when COVID first hit, I had clients calling me up and say, Alan, can you run a few sessions, motivational sessions, for the guys that are working from home? They don't have any support. They're propped up on their bed. They're up at the kitchen table and that sort of thing. And they wanted me to do all this for free. And I said, so you want me to motivate your people who are sat at home drinking a Budweiser at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're not going to pay me, but you want me to motivate them who's getting paid a salary every day? So here's the thing.
Wow.
Even the 360s, the ones that are, we would call self-sufficient recruiters, they're doing really well. And you think, brilliantly, they can work from home. Fantastic. But what is the office missing out on? The office is missing out on that knowledge sharing, the cross-selling, the sharing of best practice, the camaraderie. When somebody has just done a brilliant call, who is at home saying, well done, that was brilliant, fantastic. In fact, we're going to do a session around that. Who is there to put an arm around your shoulder when it doesn't go well? You look around you and you've got your bedroom walls, you've got your kitchen, and you'll go and stick your face in a biscuit barrel or something to drown your sorrow. Someone said no to you, as opposed to a boss going, look, it really doesn't matter. They've said no, fuck them, go
Oh,
somewhere else.
you've summed it up so well. I love that. It sums up what I thought, but didn't know I knew, if that makes sense. And it's a great point. What else are you seeing? So you are speaking to these top performers every day who are overcoming the market difficulties. What else are you seeing that people are doing well during a tough market that other recruiters should be doing?
If I were to sum it up, if I compare, for example, a professional sports person with an amateur, okay, what does a professional sports person do exceptionally well and consistently well? They do the basics.
Yeah.
They do the absolute basics. I endeavor and I try to play golf, which, if you don't know what that is, it's taking a really funny shaped stick and trying to hit a little white ball in a hole bloody miles away. And they put big holes in the ground and put sand in them. And then they put some water there just to challenge you a little bit more. So that's really difficult, right? But then there are people that are on the circuit that are earning millions and millions and millions and millions because what are they doing? Well, they're still hitting a ball with a funny shaped stick into a hole miles away, but doing it exceptionally well. But what are they also doing? They're constantly tweaking, constantly adapting and learning their game. They might change their grip. They might move their thumb around a millimeter or so. So what is it that the top people do? They're constantly thinking about, right, what's happening in my market now? Short term, medium term, and long term. They're starting to plan ahead. They're having those conversations. Too many recruiters get stuck in the here and now. They say, this is a BD call of old. Oh, hello. Yeah, it's Alan from Blue Arrow Personnel Services. Have you got any jobs on? No? Okay, speak to you soon. Bye. Next one. I could smash out 50 calls in the first half an hour. And it was always about, are you busy right now? Are you hiring? They said, well, okay, what's your marketplace doing? What is your candidate's strategy for the next 6, 12, 18 months? What's their career path looking like? I don't know. I just asked them if they wanted to move now. Okay, right. Well, okay. So what's happening is, I don't know how big I am on the screen, but let's say, for example, that represents a year in the life of a candidate's plan. I'm planning for the next year. And then clients, how far ahead do they plan? Well, they plan ahead for a year. They have sort of business goals for a year and longer. And then recruiters, how far ahead do they plan?
Yeah.
We plan the night before for the following day. And you think, well, hold on a moment, what's going on in your marketplace? Have you ever called somebody up and they said, oh, no, we filled that role? What do you mean you filled it? I didn't know you were recruiting. Or the recruiter says, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. Well, they never told me that. It's because we're not doing the basics. We're not asking future-based questions. We're not probing enough. We are not qualifying enough. And we're also, if we're talking about basics, we're not listening. We're not listening to what's not being said, and we're not challenging it. Sometimes it's almost as if it's almost like the tail wagging the dog. The market's telling us what to do, the client's telling us what to do. No, actually, I think if you have a look at our job title, it says consultant. You have to consult with them. When a client says, I want someone with 5 years experience, okay, leave it with me. I'll go and find someone with 5 years experience. No, ask them, what do you want somebody to have achieved in those 5 years?
Yes.
Well, I want
That's
to
a
have
good
achieved
point.
ABC. Brilliant. So if I find you someone that's got ABC, but they've done it in 4 years, are you still interested? Oh, yeah, of course I am. Brilliant. Because any automated systems or anybody perhaps in HR or talent acquisition that only looks at its surface level, they will be missing out on great people going, oh, look, this guy, he's only got 4 years, put him to one side. So for me, I'm not sure if I have answered your question because I've forgotten it, but it's the basics, doing the basics exceptionally well and making it look easy, but also enjoying it at the same time.
Yeah, there's so much on what you just said as well about the probing, because I think people might be listening to this and think, okay, yeah, that's fine, I do that. But do you really? Because I actually push back on clients. If they don't give me, if they're like, oh, to be honest with you, we're quite open about what we want. We're not really sure yet. For me, that's not really, I can't go down that route with them. Oh boy, you got this person, you got this person, this person. They need to really know what they want so I can go out and get exactly what they want. And it's down to me to probe in the best possible way to help them get the answers they need for themselves. Is that right?
It is. And one word, qualify. Okay, you have to qualify absolutely everything. So you qualify the client's job. You qualify clients, first of all. You qualify their job. Are they being realistic with what they're paying? Are they wanting a top achiever, but they're only paying a sort of a middle achiever sort of salary bracket? But the other thing is, and this is an example that happens pretty much every week, and I will speak to experienced recruiters about qualifying candidates, and I will say to them, and it works more so on perm, but it can do contracts. And I would say, on average, how many reasons for leaving and motivations to move do you get from your candidates? And without fail, I will get recruiters, even experienced recruiters, go, 2 or 3. I said, okay, I'll tell you what they are. They said, but you haven't met my candidates. I said, I can tell you what they are. I said, it'll probably be money, career progression, and perhaps something around remote work, something like that. And I went, how did you know? I said, because they're the standard ones. I said, so what happens when you ask somebody for their motivations and their reasons for leaving? I said, don't get 2 or 3. You need 6 or 7 or more. See if you can get that up to 10. They go, well, why do I need that many? Because that's your ammunition. That's your ammunition when that candidate starts to wobble later in the process, when they speak to their other half, when they get influenced by another recruiter, when they start to realize that, oh, I didn't realize the commute was going to be like this, or I didn't realize I was going to be so lonely working from home. I said, the first three, standard. They can be matched easily by their current employer. But it's number 4, it's number 5, it's number 6. They're the deal breakers. They're the ones where the candidate says, oh, thank you so much for your efforts over the last 2 months, Susanna. We've had some lovely conversations, but I'm staying here.
I know. And we all feel like that sometimes as recruiters. And you're completely right. It is getting those 6 reasons. And I'll be honest with you, I consider myself quite a good recruiter. I've been in it for a while, but I definitely don't get 6. But I definitely could get 6. That's the thing.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
saving time.
It's just things like, okay, so money aside, benefits aside, what else would you like to see in that role that you're not seeing right now? If you were to have conversations with your colleagues, if you were to be a fly on the wall looking at you in that role right now, what would you like to see improved? And I think recruiters are afraid to maybe sometimes either use analogies or hypothetical questions to really challenge that person's thinking. It sounds really crass, but the candidate is our product. And you've got to know every single thing about that product. If I was selling, for an example, I don't know, a photocopier, which is an old thing we used to sell, and I would need to know about the inner workings of that. If I knew that there was one little thing in this photocopier that was a bit dodgy, I know that that's going to be recalled. I know the client is going to send it back to me. So why would I not want to know everything about my product? Why would I not want to get those red flags out in the open? And then even pass those on. It's not dead in the water. I could actually say to the client as part of the interview prep, oh, by the way, you might want to explore this. You might want to maybe emphasize the fact that this is what you can do for them, because this is where they're wobbling right now.
Yes.
You know, let's get the client supporting us in this.
Yes. I guess it should be, in some ways, the most in-depth interview that candidate has is with the recruiter.
Yeah. When I hear people say to me, recruiters say to me, yeah, it's all right, I can qualify a candidate in 10 minutes. No, you can't. If you're doing executive search,
I've been doing 10-minute qualification. Do you know what? I have got shorter in my qualification process, and I've wondered why. And there's no excuse. It is laziness, really, if you break it down, or thinking that the person's in a rush. But if you pre-frame it, have you got an hour?
Yeah, it depends. Again, it comes back to sector specific, because I know that, for example, if you take the medical profession, if somebody is an oncologist, or if they are a particular surgeon, or if they're a scrub nurse, or if they're a physiotherapist, and it's on their CV and they've been doing it at this hospital for 2 years, they can do that. That's their job. But other roles, when somebody says, oh, I'm a Java developer, okay, brilliant. Well, hold a moment, but I want a native speaking German Java developer, someone that's had experience in financial. So you really need to qualify, push back, understand your products. And the same goes with your client's job as well. You know, because how many of us are given roles or briefs by clients and we call them purple squirrels, rocking horse doo-doo, hen's teeth, dinosaurs? These people don't exist.
Yes.
Yeah. And when a candidate comes back with this almighty salary expectation, I say, wow, that's a brilliant salary. Where did you get that figure from, by the way? Who's paying that? Because I'd love to work with them as a client if there's people out there paying that amount of salary. But sometimes be prepared to push back, challenge their thinking. Because I also don't think, and this is another misconception in the marketplace, that clients and candidates know what we're going to do for them. They don't. They absolutely don't. I say to people during training, if I were to do a mystery shopping exercise and I were to call 100 candidates on your database and say, what does your recruiter do for you? How would they answer that? And they'd probably say, I don't know, probably sends out my CV, arranges interviews, gets me a job. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to do the same exercise now with 100 decision makers and ask them exactly the same question. What does your recruiter do for you? Oh, pester me, send me over loads of CVs, they try and find me people. Brilliant. Okay, now let's turn over the flip chart. I can fill up a page on an A3 or A1 flip chart of all the things that we do for our clients and our candidates that they're not aware of. And that's why recruiters are not valued and they're not trusted by the externals, because they don't know what we do for them. And whose job is it to tell them what we do? And I also don't think the recruiters understand the value and the power that they have and the responsibility they have in this role. When I say to them, what do you enable your candidates to do? They say, get a new job. No. You enable them to get a new job that gives them a stress-free life, that enables them to spend more time at home with their wife and kids. You enable them to actually get up later, get home earlier. You enable them to get that career progression that they didn't get before. You enable them to get that extension, to have the holiday. It's so much more than that. And what do you enable your clients to do? You enable your clients not to fill a job. You enable your clients to get their products out to marketplace. You enable those clients to increase their market share, to actually achieve their business objectives and for that decision maker to get their quarterly bonus. So you've got to think beyond that. There is too much surface level thinking going on out there, and that's where the questioning stays.
Yes.
Below the surface. That's where you make your money deeper.
Yeah, I love that. That's definitely given me a reminder, really. But I love the way that you word it, as in the 6 motivations for them to leave the role, or motivations to find a new role. I love that way of thinking. It's really powerful. So what else? I know you've got a couple more. So what else? Milking you of all your worth here.
Well, the thing is, I know we talk some of the basics. Okay, how do the top recruiters become top recruiters? Well, I'll
Mhm.
tell you what they have. They've got a really good network. And you tell me if this has ever happened with you. You
Yeah.
see a recruiter and they're taking a job brief over the phone,
Mhm.
and they're already writing down candidate names on the pad.
Yes.
They've already got candidates popping into their heads, and you think, how the bloody hell did they do that? Because one
Yeah.
of the things they're really strong at is they're very strong at asking for referrals. And some people at this point, they might be watching this and go, oh, referrals. And I get recruiters say, Alan, yeah, I ask for referrals all the time and I just don't get any. I said, okay, you just mentioned something actually, Susanna, about the setup. I said, referrals, asking for referrals is an art form. It isn't just a tick box. Oh, this is the next thing on the qualifying checklist that I've got to go through. No, you've got to position it well. You've got to deliver it well. You've got to be able to set it up as well. Because I suspect, Susanna, in your experience, you've probably come across many excellent L&D specialists. Yeah, and I've got an easy nod from you right now. I say, well, look, if I were to set up an L&D platform, who would be the top 3 people that was pop into your heads as people I could speak to? And I know for a fact, without you saying anything, you've got names popping into your head right now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm no Darren Brown, but here's the thing. Too many people, they will blunt, like a bloody blunt instrument. They'll go, oh, yeah, Susanna, do you know anyone that might be looking? You got anyone that might be interested? And I'm thinking, what is that? That's not asking for a referral.
Yeah.
And what I say to people is, I said, how do you know if people are looking? Oh, by the way, Susanna, do you know anyone that's looking? Well, the ones that are looking might not be strong enough. And
Yes.
people don't walk into their office and say, hey, by the way, everybody, I don't like working here anymore. So if a recruiter calls up, can you give them my number? It doesn't work that
And if
way.
they are, they're probably not very good in the first place,
There,
right?
there you go. So, but if you say to them something like, look, I'm sure with your experience, you've come across many excellent developers and project managers. Oh, yeah, I have. Okay. Well, look, I'm working on similar roles with other clients. Who could you recommend I can speak to? Who could you recommend that would excel in a role like this or is already excelling in a role like this?
Mm,
Who are the best 2 operational directors you've ever worked with?
I
And
love it.
just, it's so simple. Drop the do, put in the who.
Do you know what I say? I say, this has worked quite well for me. It might not work well for everyone, but I say, if you were me, who would you be headhunting?
Yes, definitely. When I'm taking a brief with a client, I say, right, who do you want me to get and who don't you want?
Yeah.
I had a client once, he said, oh, hold on a moment. He went to his, zipped round and pulled off a sheet of paper off his printer. There you go. He said, these are all the people that we've interviewed and we've discounted so far. And I thought,
And that's
wow.
good probing, which you wouldn't
Yeah,
have got if you didn't ask.
that doesn't happen every time. But yeah, I call them candidate roadmaps and client roadmaps. And I
Mm,
will, anyone that is watching this that knows me, that's been on the receiving end of my training, will know that I use this phrase quite a lot. And that is, I was never a lazy recruiter, but
mm.
I was a great believer in getting the clients and the candidates to do the hard work for me. So if I said to the client, where do you want these people to come from? Where have you hired your best people in the past? Because there might be companies with similar processes, similar values, similar ethos, and it would be an easy transition for them. Why would I not make those my top 10, my first 10 hunting grounds? And
Yeah.
similarly with candidates, who would you like me to present your profile to? What companies out there would you like me to make a discreet investigations on your behalf?
Yes.
And who do you not want to go to? Because what is the point in doing the numbers when they don't want to work there or if they don't want people from there?
Yes.
And
And you
so
can
I
do that
think,
in any industry, right? You can
yeah,
do it in any
so
education. We have a lot of education recruitment listeners. You can say, well, which schools would you be interested in having your profile? And it makes it so much more
yeah.
valuable when you say to the school or the client, they have put your name down as one of the top 3 places they'd like to work.
And I give you one generic question. This
Mhm.
question will serve recruiters for life with both clients and candidates. And it's this: what other factors might influence your decision?
Mm,
Now, effectively, when you're talking to a client and they give you a job brief and you say, okay, I understand that, Susanna, but what other factors are truly going to influence your decision when it comes to hiring the right person? And do
yeah.
you know what they do? They do that. Well, actually, what I really want is and then they tell you the stuff that they can't write on the job spec
Yeah.
and they can't put in the advert. And then similarly, you ask the candidate that question. So what other factors are going to sort of influence your decision when it comes to making a move? Well, I do need to sort of run it past my partner. Okay, and what's your partner going to be looking for in the new role? Will he or she support you in this move? Because I'll tell you this right now, if your partner doesn't support you in a career move or a new job or a relocation, it's not happening.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely true. Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? And like you say, the referral piece, asking for the referrals in the right way. Yeah, no, I
Yes,
love
I
that.
think definitely the referrals. I think we touched upon probing. Don't ever be afraid to push back and probe. Listen to what's being said. Definitely keep in touch. Even when the market doesn't seem to be moving right now, have conversations with people in your marketplace. Every single day, particularly specialists, they are picking up market intelligence, market knowledge,
Mm,
market insight. And my question is, brilliant. What are you doing with it?
yes.
What am I doing with it? Well, it's nothing if it's in your head. Knowledge is nothing without application. I know I
Yeah.
probably bastardized that from many other people, but knowledge is nothing without action, without application. How do people know you have that knowledge unless you put it into an article, into a blog, into your introduction on your BD call, into your introduction when you send somebody a message or an email? What are
Yes.
you doing to demonstrate that I'm here giving you clarity? I'm here and I'm that radio channel where you have crystal clear understanding. Why? Because there's too much noise out there
Hmm.
right now. There's too much chatter, electrical interference. It's a very competitive marketplace. So what are you doing that actually has clarity where that decision maker said, wow, she knows what
Yeah.
she's talking about. All I need to do is say, I've been speaking with a number of CCOs in the marketplace. One of the biggest challenges they're facing right now is the complete lack of, oh, I'm sounding like a credible specialist here.
Yes.
I
Yes.
might have spoken to 3 CTOs in 2 weeks. But if I say, to be honest with you, I've been speaking with a number of CTOs and they're feeling exactly the same sort of pain as you. So how are you combating that right now? And I haven't put anything market specific in there, but the structure's there.
Yes. It's
And I
unveiling
think
that
some,
blind spot, really, isn't it? And going away from the salesperson and being the consultant, which is what we all need to be reminded to do. So I love that. I know that you have so much more content and I want all of it, but I also know we're strapped for time. So if you were to give one more
yeah,
nugget to kind of finish on that you
okay,
think, I have actually got one completely unrelated question at the end, but
okay.
one more nugget for those who are struggling at the moment in the current market.
Okay, opportunities. Right.
Hmm.
Opportunities are everywhere, but we don't often see them. And I think it's about listening, but it's about thinking, well, where can I get slightly more from this call? How can I take this call in a different direction? But the one little nugget I want to leave you with, it tends to work more for permanent recruiters, but
Hmm.
it can work for interims and contract roles. And it's backfill. And again,
Yes.
some of your viewers might be watching this go, oh, backfill, is he going on about that again? I say to people, do you know what backfill is? And they go, yeah. It's when we've taken somebody out of a job and we place them somewhere else. And I'll go, no. They said, what do you mean? I said, well, first of all, we didn't take them. We didn't steal them. We didn't poach them. We didn't nick them. I said, we presented an opportunity to them a couple of months ago and they decided to leave. They
Mm.
actually interviewed with the client. So I've got nothing to reproach myself with here. All
Yeah.
I did was I went out, had a little chat with Susanna, and she said, yeah, to be honest with you, I've been thinking about leaving here. Brilliant. Okay. So how much do we know about that job when that person leaves? Well, I know everything because I know the person who was in it. Can I
Hmm.
get the decision maker name, their boss's name? Well, of course they can. They're leaving. They don't care. Can I get their mobile number? Yeah. Okay. Could I perhaps ask them, what's the best way of approaching your boss? Yeah. So I've got a live job. I know who to approach. I've got their mobile number and I know how to approach them as well. But that's only one
Mm.
side of backfill because often recruiters think it's just people that I've placed. No, it isn't. I'm talking to a candidate. I'm pitching them a role and they say to me, oh, sorry, Alan, it sounds like a brilliant opportunity. I only handed in my notice a couple of weeks ago. Now, the lesser trained mortal is going to be thinking, oh, bugger, I missed out on a candidate here. Okay, do you know anyone that's looking? No. What we should be saying is, oh, that's fantastic news. Where are you going to? Right? There's a lead there. Where are they going to? Because it could be that that client is hiring for more people. Oh, and who's looking
Mm.
after replacing you? So I can still backfill somebody from a candidate that's been placed by another recruiter. Why
Yeah.
do I do that? Because I know that the other recruiters won't be doing it.
Yes.
So why don't they do it? Because they forget, they're afraid, or they don't know how to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Forgetting, I think a lot of it is just that reminder to do it because it makes
Yes.
perfect sense and it's low hanging fruit. Why wouldn't you grab it?
It is there. I spoke to a top biller of a company and I said, how many permanent placements did you do last year? And he said, oh, so it's about about 50. I went, oh, brilliant. How many did you backfill? And he went, don't ask me how. I said, no, seriously, how many did you backfill? He said, oh, about 3. I said, but how many could you back? He said, Alan, don't ask me that question. I said, seriously, how many could you backfill? Probably about 25. All right, that's interesting. What's your average fee? He went, look, could you just shut the because
Yeah.
25 times, and look, you're not going to place everybody. So even if you said, I don't know, half of those, less than half of those, 10 times your average fee, that's your bottom line.
Definitely. And sometimes it is only 10 because let's face it, there are some clients that you just wouldn't want to backfill into because the reasons that people are leaving there are so
And that's why
severe.
there's the genuine reasons. There are genuine reasons why there might be non-compete clauses. There might be some sort of contractual obligations. There are all sorts of things. Oh, yeah, they're a shit company. You don't want to be associated with.
No, I love that. You know what?
You
When I
must
was
feel
looking at
questioned.
you, yeah, when I was looking at you as a person and just looking at the overall kind of wisdom that I know that you have, there were so many questions that curiously just naturally came to my mind. And I'm going to choose one of them. I was going to ask you, well, first of all, I think you've been married for the same time that I've been alive, which is pretty incredible. So I was going to ask you about the marriage, but then I thought, what do the listeners really want to know? And
What's the
yeah,
incredible part? You still being alive or me being married for 38 years?
I don't know. But now you've told everyone my age. So yeah, you're definitely in trouble. This is going to be deleted, this episode. But no, genuinely, being a financial advisor, you're the first ever person who has been a financial advisor who I've had on the show. And I'm keen to know from your perspective, if there was one trick, because there are a lot of people listening to this earning a lot of money, if there was one little bit of advice that you would give people in order to be fulfilled in the long term financially, what would that be?
Right. First of all, I'm not regulated anymore, so I cannot give financial advice. Second of all, Susanna, I don't train tricks.
Ah,
I give tips and I give techniques. One thing that I will say, and it's something that I joined NatWest, a bank, when I was 17 years old. And I was lucky I got into a pension and I didn't contribute to it. My son joined HSBC. He's now 31. He joined HSBC. I said, the first thing you've got to do is get into that pension and contribute to it, because there will come a time that you cannot rely upon the state pension, or even with a triple lock, it will not cover you in old age because the cost of living is going up and the pensions don't. So make some worthwhile investments, but I would say, particularly in the UK, get that pension behind you, because you never know what's going to happen. And for example, I used to say to people, if you put £50 into a pension right now when you're 18, £50 a month, this is the size of the pot you'll have. And they'll say to me, oh yeah, but can I not do it when I'm 23, 24? Can I sort of delay it 5 years? And I said, yes, of course you can. But if you want that bigger fund, by delaying it for 5 years, your contributions are now going to be 175. Oh, but you said it was 50. I said, no, you've got 5 years to catch up on. And the
yes.
thing is, and don't worry about an age thing, it's just a number, because I actually started drawing my bank pension 2 years ago.
Wow.
From a form that I filled out when I was 17 years old. I joined NatWest on the 14th of January 1980, and I was given this form to sign. And about the 5th question was, what date do you want to retire? And I just flippantly put, 16th of June 2022. That one piece of paper triggered off a series of events 2 years ago that now meant that I could draw my bank pension.
Wow. Interesting.
So yeah, I would do that. I would do that. Give yourself that financial security for later in life. Don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to make the sacrifice now to actually give you the benefit of that later on.
Oh
But
my
yeah,
gosh.
let
We
it
can put
break.
that into everything, can't you? Sacrifice what you want now for what you want later on. It's a
Yeah,
great quote. Oh,
for
thank
sure.
you so much. I've really
I'm just
enjoyed
going to
having you.
underline that I'm not regulated, so the stock
No.
markets can go up as well as down. There. Read the
And
small
I
print.
did not prepare him for that question, so he's probably very angry that I put that one in there, but I do appreciate it. And I could have spoken to you for 2 hours. Honestly, you've got so much wisdom, and there will be many people here who are listening who want to reach out to you or potentially book you for training. I know we had to book this 2 months in advance, but how can they reach out to you? How can they follow you? What would you recommend?
Probably one of the easiest people to find on the planet, because all you do is you put in RecruiterFit. If you put in Alan Clarke in LinkedIn, RecruiterFit, I'll pop up. All my contact details are on there. Or go and visit the website,
Yeah.
www.recruiterfit.co.uk, and it's got my videos on there. And by the way, if any of your viewers want a bit of a laugh, just check out my Meet the Team page.
Ooh, I haven't seen that. I will have a look. Thank you very much. And we'll also add that to the show notes. So, Alan Clarke, thank you so much for coming on again.
There it is.
And yeah,
Okay,
have a good day.
great
Thank
to
you.
talk to you. All right, take care, Susanna. Bye all.